right, my babies, we're back. We're recording something something beautiful that happened. Let's just say. So in the previous video, the video was about a relation is as a relative as it is as its behavior in its behavior. A relation is as relative in its behavior as its name implies. In relation to what it is included in the dynamic, that is the relationship. So the idea behind it is the true essence of the relationship is the dynamic, and we don't really observe the other side. We shouldn't. That we should observe the dynamic because any changes that happen with the other side, if we're focused on the other side, then if the dynamic changes, we never know where it could take us. It's complete trust thing, maybe, or abdication of responsibility. But if we're watching the dynamic, then anytime the other side of the relationship a relation of the relation changes, shifts, amends, whatever word we want to use. But anytime there's a discrepancy, there's something that's like different, it will reflect itself on the dynamic. So a true relationship is one where the dynamic is what's observed instead of the actual relationship itself, which allows you to kind of like just see it from a different perspective, which in turn creates a different dynamic for you to observe, which basically allows you to see it from a different perspective. And it's a beautiful kind of like points connecting, points connecting, points connecting. And I mentioned the whole Rishi Devata Chanda, where basically there's the knower, the known, and the knowing. And the dynamic is basically the how the relationship is articulated. And there's the 2 points of the relationship. First, from me, it's starting, and another thing, it's starting. And I love it. But I wrote a context here is where you're at in life requires other people's position to show the terrain that you can't see and show you where you are stuck. So again, I mentioned in the previous video, like I actually I use stuck a bit more. I shouldn't have said stuck. Well, maybe a better word would be where you're stagnating, where you are stagnant, where you are unmoving. And if you put water in a cup, drinking water in a cup, after 3 days, it turns yellow. Not that it's not a part of nature, but everything, flowing water, never goes stale. Bruce Lee said that. It's because activity basically is the essence of life, I feel, because everything is changing all the time. And no man could enter the river twice. He is no longer the same man, and it's no longer the same river. And again, like we can find a whole lot of like parables, stories, just like different quotes, whatever you want to find, that kind of point at the changes that we go through. But the changes are always in relation to something. And me, I self-reflect a lot. But after I self-reflect, I go out in the world and I kind of like self-actualize through the new me in order to see basically if it works or not. And it's a very nerdy approach. I don't care. I care a lot actually because I love it. So where you're at in life requires other people's position to show the terrain you can't see. And I want you to imagine a plane with dots on it. And ultimately, if the dot is basically seeking a path or a vision or a basically scope of its own reality, it could, if it understands where the other dots are positioned, then it can maneuver itself much better. And this is us in life, right? Because like in the physical world, you remember basically trees, you remember villages, you remember certain like houses, buildings in the city, you remember different streets. You kind of have like these points in memory that give you a piece of reference. When it comes to yourself, what we have as a point of reference is literally the positions of, because we're talking in concepts here. And ultimately, where you want to be in life is your own personal concept. So other people, not their opinion, their positions. It's written here. Where you go in life requires other people's position to know the terrain you can't see and show you where you are stuck. Because the idea behind it is, here I am right now. This is kind of like my vision. And you look at like three, four people around you, and you go like, okay, so I wanted to be a doctor, and the guy next to me, for example, is a mechanic. Can he really help me? I don't know, but relative to his position, I probably have to go in a different direction. If the guy next to me is a nurse, it's closer. So that person has more of an influence, basically. His position has more of an influence to my sense of direction. And it's the conceptual position. Why? Because like this person in my life, not physically a nurse, in my life is basically a relationship, an engagement, an interaction, an accepted part of my daily reality, maybe weekly reality, whatever it is. All of these are basically the interactions that I'm going to be engaging with when it comes to that person existing in my life. It could just be, hi, how are you, what's up? But that doesn't really contribute very much to the path I want to go. But different kinds of conversations and approach to his own lifestyle will basically give me a lot more guidance towards my path. So here, where you're at in life requires other people's positions to show the terrain you can't see. And the beauty behind it is your vision could encompass the whole world or encompass a part of the whole world. And what I say about that is, if go back to the doctor's example, if you actually want to be a doctor, there's a very clear-cut path that's been standardized, right? But if you want to be an entrepreneur, then basically your path, the approach to the path is standardized, but the path isn't, right? So the people you're going to basically like interact with as an entrepreneur to become an entrepreneur are a lot more vague than the people you're going to interact with to become a doctor, right? The people that teach you about entrepreneurship, for example, are basically giving you the standard template of how to approach it. The same way I'm studying business analysis right now. There's a template of how to do things, but you get to decide what needs to be done based on the project, based on the product, based on the outcome that you want, the need, the responsibility, the problem, the issues. All of these are basically just you are the one that has to kind of like figure them out. So there's a template for the approach, while on the other one, there's a full-blown standardized kind of like outline of if you do this this year, this year, this year, after 7 years, 8 years, you become a doctor. Great, amazing. Look at you. So other people on your basically because I'm exploring in the shared world, and other people are exploring in the shared world, and concepts are built from basically whatever the world has to offer or beyond it. But like to get to beyond it, you kind of have to reach a limit of what it is that you're thinking about, and the extra step beyond is basically what you kind of like go, haha, this is where I want to be, if that's where you want. But like all information is basically within your realm until you're picking something beyond the realm. And ultimately, people are the positions that you kind of like are the people's positions around you are those beacons of lights. I think I explained them as lighthouses because what you get out of them makes you understand more where you are until you as well become like a beacon for other people to see, or without even knowing, like on your path you're probably going to be like a beacon for other people to kind of interact with. And it's funny, I'm feeling it right now because like for me the actual like people that I'm trying to like talk to are beyond my scope of understanding. And so, because my vision is heading a certain kind of way, but the people I'm working with, one of them, for her, I'm in a perfect position for her movement towards what she wants to do. And because we have like deep conversations about methods, methodology, and approach, and we have those kinds of negotiations or interactions. So that allows her to kind of like explore how she thinks, how she processes stuff. And given that I'm a nerd when it comes to that, like she's forming her own way. So I am, even though I'm moving, because we're not trees, human beings are not trees, we can go move. Even though I'm moving throughout my own path, at this point in time, because she's working with me, she's kind of connected to, she found a connection to me that she could also use for her own path. So that's the relative part, right? And ultimately, if I'm talk to somebody and I realize where I am, and I come back after a couple of weeks and I talk to them and I realize I'm in the same place, then ultimately I actually get to see how whatever it is that I'm doing is actually influencing the position that I'm in a positive and not in a productive manner or an unproductive manner. Because ultimately, I could change my mind, or I can change like directions, or I can change visions, and all of these stuff are completely plausible. But you get to self-actualize through people by basically understanding the relation they have to you, to what you actually want to do. So through the people that have succeeded in what you're trying to succeed in, you get to gauge where you are in that position. A lot of things could change always, because like your approach is different. So maybe the position looks to you like what the other people are like engaging with. But the closer you get to them, to understand them, the closer you get in their direction, you kind of realize, okay, there's another direction I want to go. And it's fascinating because that's how we kind of like absorb what we need. And then at that point, we kind of like realize, okay, now I have to look for another beacon. And it's fascinating because ultimately there's one beacon that like rules them all. And the easier information to get is the information from the smaller beacons, which are people and the concepts on Earth. But evolving beyond that is basically the one that rules them all, and the universe that kind of gets them. I snuck that one in, but yeah, ultimately, there are still people that are exploring different things in this world that are at the forefront of evolution, basically. And where's that information coming from? Where are they getting that inspiration and all that stuff? Go on. Yellow babies, it's a video. Love you.